No End for a Sailor by Nick Baker and Benjamin Euler. Produced by Matthew Webster. Narrated by Martin Patrick Quinn. Starring Matthew Webster as Billy Applegarth, Jason Baxter as George Nobleman, Rebecca Burrill as Sophia, Benjamin Euler as Kincaid Mackenzie, Nick Baker as Aloysius Lennon, Martin Patrick Quinn as Postman. No End for a Sailor. Act 1, Scene 1. A pub in an English port town, 1899. George Nobleman stands in front of the bar, inviting you to lend him your ears.
Evening, one and all. My name's George Nobleman, landlord at your service. We're gathered here today at the Harbour Inn to bear witness to a crooked tale of audacious deception, the likes of which must be told, lest it be forgotten. Within these four walls, I've witnessed every desire and desperation that lies in a man's heart. All of life's hopes, aversions and delusions sit here tonight. Some drinking to remember, some drinking to forget.
Just let me get you a pint, Billy.
I don't want one. Leave me be, Sophia.
Oh, come on. The old Billy must still be in there somewhere. Just take a drink off me.
What good would that do?
Well, what harm would it do you? Your liver's pickled as it is. Stuff you then. I'll be at the bar if you change your mind.
Billy Applegarth is left alone and forlorn at the table, staring at the harbour beyond the window, brooding.
They've done all they can for me in here. I, William Applegarth, hero of the hour. But what exactly have I done to earn such high regard? In this place, praise is cheaper than truth. They'll slap my back and fill my glass, but I've done nothing for anybody and they can do nothing for me. Nothing. It's all it amounts to in the end. A sailor I used to be. Year upon year, I sailed those seas, and I knew them well. At least I thought I knew them. Never had the waves betrayed me. In fact, I'd go so far as to say we'd developed an understanding with one another, a kinship of mutual forces. With a turn of the hand, I could summon the wind, inflate my sails and skate the swells. I prided myself in getting to the other side of any storm, both drunk and dry. Months spent out at sea, surrounded by foaming wrath, endless nights beneath the heavenly stars, a crew alone from all other men with land but a far-gone memory. We toiled on the illustrious as we ever had until that cursed night. She was a sturdy ship, but our arrogance led us to believe that she was impervious in her ways. But was our arrogance not well-founded? She, ever unyielding to the sea's wild vicissitudes until that godforsaken scene. Poseidon's fury unleashed. The memory, the screaming, the shouting, the wailing crew of our spinning, twisting, suffering ship, mercilessly ravaged and cracked in two from bow to stern by the most unholy of all tempests, sending every crewman to their watery grave, making widows of women and leaving tearful, fatherless children in its wake. Every crewman drowned except me. 8 good men, 8 dear brothers, lost forever to the whims of the waves, and I, William Applegarth, clinging to a length of broken mast like an ant on a matchstick in the vastness of an unforgiving ocean, safely cradled while listening to gasping pleas of my brother's last breaths. I, William Applegarth, completely helpless to do anything other than apologize as their heads disappeared so solemnly beneath the water's gloom. Once the crown of the last man had submerged, all of Poseidon's venom and vitriol suddenly ceased. Within a matter of minutes, the sea had settled itself into a shimmering, flat serenity that mocked the fates of its victims. For 7 days and for 7 nights, I remained floating adrift, starving and shivering, exhausted but still clinging to my mast, and the fickle tide was most generous, bringing me back to shore, washed up like a piece of driftwood among the seaweed on the beach. I, William Applegarth, lone survivor, discovered by the morning cocklers, carried to the harbour inn, and falsely heralded a hero. How can I accept a pint of ale while my brothers drink the sea's brine? Never mind ale. How can I even be permitted to breathe while my brothers have choked away their last breaths? It's abomination that I live. Each day the guilt worsens. There's only one way of correcting this. Here's what I'll do. I'll head towards the gents, but I'll make a turn for the stairs instead. Up 3 floors and then through the hatch onto the bloody rooftop. A 50-foot drop down to the street below should see me off nice and proper. I'll be dead as dead can be. Good health to you all.
Billy rises up from his seat and walks through the crowd towards the lavatory doors. Sophia leans over the bar, trying to catch the eye of George.
George, set me up a rum and apple, will you? Oh, Georgie, doesn't your bed get awful cold on these wintry nights? Does it not?
I'll tell you for the 1000th time, her memory is warmth and comfort enough for me.
I could give you something to remember.
Sophia, you're drunk. Be gone now. Off to your table.
Well, as there's no fun here, fine. What's going on out there?
The pub doors burst open. Billy has his arms around the shoulders of 2 men, Aloysius and Kincaid, who are carrying him towards the bar. Billy bears a resentful expression.
What was all that fuss about?
Catch of the day.
We were going about our work, moving a couch for an old widow, and lo and behold, this drunken lemming falls from the sky and lands right in the middle of it. Soft as a daisy, courtesy of our fortunate footings.
You mean to say he fell from the sky?
He did indeed. Staggered right off your rooftop.
Well, what was he doing up there?
I got lost on the way to the gents.
When in all the years you've drank here, have the gents ever been on the roof?
George, I've had enough. What more do you want me to say? I thought confession was on a Sunday.
Billy, just take a seat where I can see you. Aloysius, Kincaid, you've done a good turn here, lads. Can I give you a drink for your efforts?
Most obliged, sir.
Hold your horses, Aloysius. We've work to tend to. Thanks for your offer, George. We'll take you up on it tomorrow.
Act 1, Scene 2. The following day, Billy is slumped opposite George at the bar.
So what were you playing out there last night? Roving round on the rooftops like some careless lunatic? Were you howling at the moon?
I'm out of ideas, George. At the end of my tether. The views up there were heavenly. As nice a view as any from a man's last drop.
Don't talk foolishly now. Tell me, did you really want to kill yourself? Don't I have better things to do than mop up the remnants of your splattered brains?
It put that mop to good use. And you'd miss my custom, George. But nothing else.
That's an objectionable death for a man like you. Tell me, when you clung desperately to that mast out on the high sea, what exactly were you clinging on for? if only to go and do yourself in at a later date, having reached the safety of solid ground.
It's not as simple as you think. A man's will for life comes and goes like the ebbing of the tides. The current's unpredictable. Who knows what one will feel from one day to the next?
In that case, tomorrow you may wish to live.
If there was any honour about me, I would have died with the rest of them. Those 8 unfortunate men all had wives and children. But me, a useless, drunken bachelor, the only one of so many to survive, what a sick and twisted mockery of those grinning sea gods.
Oh, Billy, you poor fool. Stop torturing yourself for acting within the compulsory realms of human nature. You have a beating heart that yearns to go on beating. How can you fault yourself for doing what any man was designed to do?
Who's this designer you speak of? He must be a real vindictive bastards that play us like marionettes, severing the cards to all but one. Me being the chosen one, the most useless of the lot with nobody to depend on me. Condemned to misery and shame while everyone slaps my back, fills my glass and labels me a hero.
But what were the odds of that, Billy? Maybe you're destined for greater things and our Maker may well have some special role in store for you.
Ha! Special role. For a moronic, illiterate, penniless drunk with sea legs too precarious for this land. There's nothing. Nothing here for me but my inevitable squalid death. So why delay the inevitable? Why prolong the suffering?
We're all in the waiting room, and while we're here, we should make best we can.
As I told you yesterday, George, you're a barman, not a priest. If I wanted to go to confession, I'd pop down the road, and let me tell you, the wine's a lot cheaper there.
Right, so that's it then. You're going to kill yourself. So when's the big moment to be? At least give me some warning next time so I can have the mop ready.
The postman enters the pub with letters in hand. Sorry about the delay, George. There's some letters for you. One for yourself, Billy, since you're here.
Much obliged.
Billy remains unstirred as the postman places the letter to his front before exiting.
Bills, bills, bills. Vultures, thieves, charlatans. When will they ever leave me alone? What have you got there, Billy?
Nothing of importance. Nobody ever writes to me. Besides, I wouldn't bother to read it even if I could.
Perhaps I should take the liberty. If it's bad news, I'll throw it in the fire. How about that?
Do as you must.
From the Sailors' Protection Union.
Ha! Another gang of crooks. Always with their greedy hands outstretched. Let me guess. You want to take another penny out of my pocket? Which I don't have.
Dear Mr. William Applegarth, I am hereby writing with reference to the unfortunate events surrounding the termination of your sea vessel, the Illustrious. Our board has examined the case thoroughly and has concluded that owing to the loss of life, loss of earnings, and loss of personal property which you have sustained, along with the well-documented physical hardship that you endured following the destruction of your vessel, we have elected to provide numerative compensation amounting to the sum of £1,000 sterling. This amount will be deposited into your bank account on the 1st of February 1899, at which point we will have finalised all administrative formalities. I very much hope that this can bring you some solace for the tragic events of the 27th of November 1898. Yours sincerely, Mr. Clement Berlioz, Sailors' Protection Union Chairman. My God, this is unbelievable. There you were, weighed down with self-pity, and then this miraculous stroke of fortune falls on your lap. You see, I told you, did I not, Billy?
Billy remains slumped on the bar, showing no interest.
Do you have nothing to say? What on earth's wrong with you? £1,000 by the end of next week. You could buy a bloody house with this, or a nice boat. In fact, 3 nice boats if you desired. You could nestle in the arms of luxury for the rest of your years.
What good would riches do me in my current state? Even with all the gold and jewels and fineries that the world has to offer, I'd still remain a wretched man whose very existence is an injustice, a cold slap in the face to all those widows and fatherless children. No. Wait a minute. That's it. I didn't keep a penny of it for myself. 8 widows and all their children will benefit from this forevermore. £1,000 split equally between 8 families is 120 odd apiece. No longer will those children go hungry. No longer will their fathers' deaths consign them to the brutality of the poorhouses. Let their bellies be filled forevermore. Let some joy come out of this tragedy. And to think how my sea brothers mocked me for joining the protection union. The pickpocketing union, they called it. Admittedly, I was drunk at the time, but many a fine choice is made in wine.
So you'll be staying off my roof from now on then?
You have my word, George. My mission is set. Way.
And as day passes into night, William Applegarth's merriment will know no bounds. His stumbled upon lust for life will fall into the arms of those same patrons he scolded but a day ago.
Act 1, Scene 3. That evening, Billy is dancing extravagantly with Sophia. Round and round they go, full of joy. Kincaid and Aloysius enter and approach the bar.
Ah, fellas, two good men if ever there were. What can I get you for your troubles last night? On the house.
Just a pint of bitter, please, George.
Aloysius, you damn fool. It's on the house. Very kind to you, George. We'll each have half a gill of that Speyside single malt up there.
You'll have the shirt off my back too. But it's well deserved, so I shan't grumble.
Thanks. Aloysius, let's nab that table in the corner.
Aye.
Just as well for us to get a free whiskey given the paltry sum we got for that couch.
Did you see her face when we handed it over, splattered in rum?
No wonder she only gave us a pittance. It was a beautiful piece before that drunken wretch fell onto it. He should have done us a favour and spilt his brains out onto the curb like he'd set out to.
That rancid fucker's certainly cost us.
We're only earning peanuts as it is. We had to pay off the night watchman to boot. Without his assistance we wouldn't have gotten that couch.
His vigilance is well placed in the school for the blind.
Shh, get your voice down now.
Yeah, but do you not get sick of it though? All this petty work. Shimmying windows. Creeping on tiptoes. Coming out with buttons and going to bed with hungry bellies. Just look at the state of my jacket. Pinching pockets from dusk till dawn and still can't afford a new one. I want a solid roof over my head. Not some dilapidated hovel with cracked windows. Even the rats turn their noses up at it. We're grafting solidly day and night with not so much as a pot to piss in. We need a new racket.
We're in the missing goods trade. Antiques and fineries. In addition, we've got trusty old Shannon. She'll spread her willing legs for a penny a pop, and that's a halfpenny in our pockets.
Ugh. She's a prehistoric, wart-faced gargoyle of a deranged woman. Only the blind drunks ever go for her. And even then it's a job to get them to cough up.
I agree, trade could be much better. But we've robbed, pinched and borrowed from every hapless fucker in this town twice over. It's a wonder we've never been caught. Thus far luck's been on our side, but we've needed too much of it of late.
I've noticed that there's plenty of lead on the church roof. Maybe we could clamber up there one night and fill our boots. It goes for a bob or two, that stuff.
Oh, but who would we even sell it to?
We'd find a buyer somewhere.
Even if we did, we'd be skint again after just a few days. No, we need real money. Something substantial to get our teeth into.
Billy notices Aloysius and Kincaid. He gleefully approaches their table.
Ah, look who it is. My guardian angels.
What the bloody hell do you want?
Nothing. You give me enough, gents. Breath of life, and this one's all the richer. Thank you, a million thank yous, so I could kiss both your faces. So joyous to be standing here alive and kicking with all body parts and faculties fully intact, and facing the right way. My desire to breathe and to keep breathing is all ablaze once more. This old oak is soon to bear fruit. To think I was ravaged by winter's malign whims, haggard by the winds of time, but now the sun of spring, it shines plentifully on my face. Kincaid and Aloysius, I extend my grateful palm to thee.
It's Aloysius, not Aloysius. Give my name some dignity and pronounce it correctly. And what on earth are you babbling on about, old man?
This is all by your good hands, gents. My life was in a downward spiral, but fate intervened, cushioning my precast skull and preventing my misguided delusion that I'd be better off dead.
Each delusion has its kernel of truth.
And a fine philosopher to boot.
Billy takes his seat, uninvited.
For every man who lands in the palm of fate's hand, another receives a backhander. Your foolish shenanigans have cost us £0.50. Our customers have discerning eyes. They don't appreciate the splatter and stench of rum across the exquisite fabric of their furniture.
Very dry, gent. One needs a dry humour when out at sea. You remind me of my old shipmates, God rest their souls. You fine fellas, you two. What business are you in?
Our business is our business. Maybe you should mind your own. You're developing a bad habit of landing yourself on the pair of us.
Well, I'm afraid you're stuck with me.
Have you no regard for the wants of others? Can you not see that we're busy conversing on important matters?
Are we not kindred spirits? Bound together by the act of a miracle? What could be more important than having sustained the breath of a man who thought he had taken his last?
Stupid fool. Your tongue has been lassoed by liquor. Who's to say you won't clamber back up on the rooftop tonight? Your apparent yearning for life having reverted back to a yearning for death. Such are the fickle ways of squalid drunks.
Oh, ye of little knowledge. Furnished you only half the picture. Since I dropped from that rooftop last night, the golden hand of fate is gifting me with 2 immaculate fortunes. In one stroke life, and in another, a reason for life.
And what might your reason for life be? The rake of beer and incoherent sentimentalism?
Ah, fellows, in all seriousness, I've been given the means to repent for my sin.
And what sin is that?
The sin of living. Living while my comrades are rotting down to their bones in the seafloor, and their widows are left penniless with their children weeping and starving.
How do you seek to rectify that when you haven't managed to muster the necessary funds to buy yourself even 1 pint of ale in months? We've observed your practices, always having to receive through sympathy.
God bless the Union. God bless the drunken day I put my signature to that insurance policy. 1,000 of Her Majesty's pounds will make their way to me on Friday of next week. On that very morning, I'll be sending out 8 cheques to those poor widows. Their children will starve no more. Think of the good that'll flow from this fortune. My good fortune bequeaths many more. They'll get every last penny. I'll know true happiness when my pockets are empty again.
Are you sure you didn't hit your head on the way down last night?
I've never witnessed such insanity. Pray tell, what possesses you to give away such a fortune when you're penniless yourself? You owe us a pint for a start.
How could I forget, my good men?
Billy leaves the table, staggers to the bar, and realises his pockets are empty. Sophia approaches to his side.
Billy, have you got your dancing shoes on tonight?
I have no other pair.
Billy begins to dance with Sophia.
Look at him. Frolicking about without the presence of mind to make it to the bar for the 2 men who saved his pitiful life. Can you believe it? We're out grafting day and night for mere pennies while that suicidal, drunken bastard has a fortune fall into his lap.
We should have been sailors, and hapless ones at that. I've never witnessed such an injustice. £1,000 to be squandered on such a worthless cause.
Those bitch widows have probably found other sailors to tend to their needs. And as for the kids, hunger will teach them the value of ingenuity.
I concur. Handouts would only rob them of their integrity.
Us two, on the other hand, have we not served our time? We've endured every abominable hardship known to man, and should we not find ourselves at the gates of good fortune? Would we not make better use of that money?
Aye, but it's in the hands of a fool. He'll flitter it away however he chooses. There's nothing we can do about it.
Arrogant swine. Did he not think to offer a share to those who saved his neck at the expense of that sofa?
There must be a way we can get our hands on that money. Just think of the carefree lives we could lead with such bountiful funds to be disposed of.
It's a damn shame he can't be disposed of.
Even if he was, we'd never see a penny of it. It would still most likely go to those whorish widows and their snotty-nosed kids.
Unless we were to happen upon some legal measure through which we could officially become the rightful benefactors.
That would be most fortuitous. Hang on. I have an idea. Bear with me a second. Pass me that newspaper. Billy! Over here. Help us out a second.
Sorry, fellas. Got lost on my way to the bar.
Don't worry yourself. It's something else we're after. We're looking for our friend's name in the obituaries here, but we've both left our glasses at home. Can you see a Ralph Turner listed anywhere here?
I could never make sense of the written word. All meaningless gobbledygook to my eyes. I was a sailor, not a scholar.
Never mind. We'll find out soon enough anyway. Don't let us keep you from dancing now.
Billy leaves the table and resumes dancing with Sophia.
What was all that in aid of? Since when have you needed reading glasses? Or I, for that matter? And who the hell's Ralph Turner?
I wanted to ascertain whether or not the man has any claim to literacy.
And what good will that do us?
Aloysius, summon your wits and join the dots. The man can't read, so we could be convinced to sign anything that's waved in front of him. Anything our minds can muster.
Like what?
For God's sake, use your imagination.
I'm at a loss. What is it you're alluding to?
I'm alluding to the formation of a legally airtight will, furnished with our good names as sole recipients of the funds to which Billy Boy so light-heartedly lays claim.
My God, that's inspired. For if some mishap was to befall our unfortunate buffoon, we can rest assured his money would be in good hands. But we'd need some assistance in ensuring that the will is beyond all scrutiny.
Fret not, Aloysius. We will render the legal dexterity of our esteemed friend, Mr. Goodright.
Ah, a good man indeed. The master of law and defender of thieves. His services have maintained our liberty on countless occasions.
Most importantly, his penmanship is gospel to the court. If we prophesize high risk of untimely demise and attach it to the notion of a generous percentage, he's certain to put ink to parchment. Then, with a touch, the dominoes will roll.
Act 1, Scene 4. The following day, Aloysius and Kincaid enter the pub and approach the bar.
2 pints of bitter, please, nobleman.
Coming right up.
Keep the change.
Much obliged.
Kincaid and Aloysius take their usual table in the corner.
Do you have it with you?
Yes.
Let me take a look then.
Be careful with it. We can't give this back all dog-eared and sloshed with ale.
It's beautiful. I, William Applegarth, hereby declare my intention to bequeath on my passing all monies, goods and sundries over to the possession of my most trusted, beloved friends, Aloysius Lennon and Mark Kincaid Mackenzie equally. In addition to this, all due proceeds and monies owed in lieu shall enter into the ownership of Aloysius Lennon and Mark Kincaid Mackenzie equally.
This is the best bit. I, William Applegarth, hereby declare myself to be fully compos mentis, and I make this declaration under conditions of measured deliberation.
Oh, I'm surprised you can read that without your glasses.
All that's needed is his signature. I'll put it away for now.
It's the man himself. Billy, take a pew. It's good to see you.
We're blessed to have such charming company. Allow me to take your jacket, sir.
Oh, you're a couple of gentlemen.
Another pint of ale over here, George.
On its way, gents.
The joys of spring are with you today, fellas. In better spirits than yesterday, if you don't mind me saying.
We were just talking this minute about how fortunate it was the other day for you to have landed so gracefully on our couch.
I hope you don't mind us bringing this up, but we feel it was the honour of a lifetime to have intervened in what would have been the most upsetting of all tragedies. We would have mourned your passing for the rest of our days. And now, the icing on the cake is that you two have found purpose and its associated joys out of this happenstance.
I'm glad to hear it. It's your newfound purpose.
Ah, Billy boy, it's like this. There's an old adage that's been passed down through the ages, dating back to the days of antiquity. It stipulates that when one has saved one's life, one is responsible for their happiness everlasting.
We were so touched by the nobility of your intentions. We want to make sure that you're as comfortable as can be during this interim period, right up to the moment when you hand over the insurance money to those poor widows. It gladdens me to imagine the smiles on their faces and the light it shall restore to those children's eyes. And beyond that momentous occasion, we pledge to always do right by you.
You said it yourself last night. We're your guardian angels.
I don't know what to say, fellas. You've already saved my life, and for that alone, you'll always have my gratitude. All I request is that we clink jars and toast to good health.
To good health.
We mean it. You're a good man, Billy, and there's not many good men around in this day and age. Such men as yourself are a rarity. Let me tell you, for instance, we've been collecting signatures today for a worthy cause if ever there was one. The school for the blind. It's in desperate need of repair. Many children are suffering and they lack the basic amenities. The mayor is sitting on his hands, reluctant to provide necessary funds. So we've taken it upon ourselves to draw up a petition, but many people in this town lack the decency to sign.
And it costs them nothing. They can't see the wood for the damn trees, if you forgive the expression. How can people be so morally debased as to refuse the provision of a mere signature?
That's outrageous. Who are these people?
They're not worth mentioning, and I shan't sully the name of others.
You're a gentleman, Kincaid. Good heart, pure intentions. They give light to this world. Do you happen to have this petition with you?
I think Aloysius may have it somewhere.
Oh, no, you must have it, Kincaid.
There it is.
Let me sign it. I can't pen a single word, but I have a distinctive signature. It's got me in and out of trouble in days gone by.
Terrific, Billy. Each signature expresses the measured deliberation of those good people who agree that blind children should be well kept.
Kincaid carefully folds the document, revealing only a dotted line.
Just your signature here. We'll print your name and date it for you.
Most kind of you, gents.
A good deed done. Can we get you another pint of ale?
Your kindness knows no bounds.
Just ask George for 3 ales and have him put it on our slate.
Right you are.
Kincaid and Aloysius wait for Billy to go out of earshot.
He's chewed the bait. The hook rests in his cheek. Now we must reel him in gently. Within 3 days we'll have the document rubber stamped by Goodright and authorised by the powers that be. In the meantime, let us get him accustomed to our generosity. We'll ply him full of drink, no expense spared. Have him topped up with infinite supply. Make him dependent on our goodwill while the rest of the town witnesses his drunken spiral, watching on with concern for his lack of self-preservation.
Then when the fatal moment arrives, the blame will rest squarely at his own door.
While we assume the role of grieving friends.
By the time you finalise the will, I'll have secured a quantity of wood alcohol large enough to send any man to his grave 10 times over.
Shh, he's coming.
Three of Nobleman's finest.
You're a good man, Billy.
The best there ever was.
Act 2, Scene 1. Billy is sat at the table with Kincaid and Aloysius. George stands in front of the bar, requesting your attention.
3 debauched days have passed by, in which time I've witnessed the rampant excesses of Billy's drunkenness, let loose with an unlimited tab. From staggering round engaged in virtuoso singing, to chinwag hallucinatory conversations with deceased fishermen. Drink after drink after drink. Last night he was doing the bolero, while confessing his undying love to the woman in hand, before discovering he was clutching my broomstick. Most patrons would, in observance of proper decorum, withdraw generosity at the threshold of Billy's inebriation spilling out onto other people. Such sights command a need for restraint, the banks do not burst with these two. And for the fourth night, Kincaid and Aloysius continue to whet his thirsty beak.
It's been great getting to know you fellas. Sometimes God smiles on you and good things fall out of the sky.
Indeed they do, Billy boy. Would you fancy another pint?
Billy pats down his pockets.
Don't worry yourself. Let the cobwebs remain undisturbed in your wallet. Just ask Nobleman for 3 more on our slate.
Ah, you pearls of the ocean.
Billy excitedly leaves for the bar.
Please tell me you have it with you.
A full bottle of the stuff. But just an inch will do the trick.
How exactly does it work?
Poisons his guts out. Puts a cross on his head. When it takes effect, he'll be gasping for breath, going blind, confused to a point of delirium, dizzy as a spinning top. And when his vital organs are no longer able to sustain the onslaught, there will be seizures. Then, death.
Marvellous. We'll no longer have to listen to his babbling nonsense. Goodright assured me that the document's inscrutable. And after the grieving is over, and we'll put on a good show at the funeral, then all we'll need to do is sit back and wait for the money.
Billy returns to the table with 3 pints of ale.
Billy, my good man.
It was sinfully overcast this morning.
But it's brightened up now, thankfully.
Did you have anything nice for tea?
A cabbage stew with half a carrot thrown in for good measure. Just like the old sailors used to have to ward off scurvy. All a man needs for sustenance is in a cabbage.
Cabbages are fine things.
Ah, food for the gods.
Some men put their money on dogs, others on horses. If you ask me, it's best spent on cabbages. Never had so much as a sniffle in my life, even when the lads who were plagued with flu in our cabin. Living together, cheek by jowl, I never caught a hint of it. That's all down to those divine cabbages.
Mrs. Summerton has a whole patch of them. Delicious things.
Does she give you them for free?
In a sense, yes.
That's very good of her.
Yeah, she's very good to us.
Oh, lavatory beckons. Screws and what?
Billy leaves for the gents.
Quick, now's the time.
Aloysius pours some wood alcohol into Billy's glass.
More! Fill it to the brim!
No, I've had it on good advice that this will be enough to see off a horse, let alone this waif. It blends beautifully, just as he left it.
He's here, in your pocket.
Have you fellas ever noticed that the urinals are mounted just a touch too high?
What do you mean?
They seem to have been put in for giants. Ever since I've drank it, I've been pissing on tiptoes. It may seem a mind gripe to hold, but the frequent swells and overspill are becoming intolerable. I'd be better off on stilts.
You'd think Nobleman could afford to spend a penny on them.
I'd mention it to him, but the poor man's overheads are a constant burden.
Perhaps you could cover the costs when your money comes through?
A most noble endeavour.
I think I'd rather feed a starving child than replace an old urinal.
Very true. We should drink to that.
The 5th pint's always the sweetest.
Sophia sits at the bar, conversing with George.
Thirsty as a fish, that man. By God, he's thrown a few down his gullet of late. Heaven knows what foolishness will possess him tonight.
He's like a schoolboy who's found his father's whiskey, unable to restrain himself in the proper manner. He's discovered his flair, but he's ignorant to his flailing.
This is the plight of the publican. Delight to fill my pockets as others empty theirs, seeking to remedy their ills. But conscience doesn't look fondly upon aiding and abetting another's downgoing. I sit with one hand on each scale, seeking equilibrium between these opposing forces.
You're cheery tonight, George.
I speak in earnest. I watch men grasp their liquor as if it's a sacred elixir. Every cure, every scourge known to man is stewed in a rotten barrel from grain and water, then dragged for the cobbles by whipped horses. I haven't had a drop since Euphemia died. It would only lead to greater despair.
Sophia places her hand on George's hand.
3 more of your finest, please, my good merchant of merriment.
Why, fancy seeing you here, Billy.
Sophia, will you take my hand for a dance later?
If you're lucky enough.
Here you go. I'll add them to your friend's slate.
Billy returns to the table, drinks in hand.
those old sea legs of yours are as nimble as ever.
I'm a prize specimen. Ship-shape and able to weather any storm. Never been in finer fell. Made of the strongest metal with broad oak up my beam. Sails brimming from the wind. On course to reach golden shores.
That's delightful to hear. What's your secret?
Good company and good ales.
Let's drink to that.
Most beauteous, heavenly liquid. Down the hatch you go. Fill me up with your splendour.
I've been thinking about those urinals.
Sophia interrupts, presenting her hand in front of Billy.
Now, how about that dance you offered me?
It'd be my honour, your ladyship.
Billy and Sophia walk off arm in arm and begin to dance with fervent energy.
You said a swig or two would do the job. Look at him. Giddy as a grasshopper.
He should be stiff as a plank by now. Our man's an expert on these matters. Could be that it's yet to digest, but I was told it would be over quickly.
Stop wittering and fill up his glass.
Maybe his insides are made of metal. This will see us home.
He won't be so full of himself when he's writhing on the floor, choking on his own innards.
Eyes bulging, then popping out from his skull, rolling about the floor like pickled eggs.
Sophia will shriek like a banshee when she sees him soil himself.
He'll turn blue as a blueberry, tongue licking the floor.
It'll be hard to maintain straight faces when they carry the body out.
That's when the second act starts. We will be thespians bearing masks which are as solemn as crows.
Billy returns to the table.
What she has in grace, she lacks in stamina. I could out-foxtrot a trotting fox.
I've never witnessed such deftful movements from a man of your years.
I concur. You move like a professional, fused as one with the music. Who'd have thought a retired sailor could dance with such panache?
Sailing is a dance. Navigation is about being in step with the rhythm of the ocean. And besides that, we needed entertainment and loose limbs on deck.
And plenty of grog.
Aye.
What were you saying about the urinals, Kincaid?
Well, we should put it to Nobleman to commission a large block of wood for the patrons to stand on.
A genius idea.
Ideas are our bread and butter.
Ah, bread and butter. Bread and butter are of the same divinity as cabbages.
Ah, but cabbages are of the earth, whereas bread and butter are man-made concoctions. Therefore, I'd hold more reverence toward cabbages for their true divinity.
So you would have a cabbage over a pint of ale?
Our vices are God-made too.
God-made.
Last orders. Last orders. Time, gentlemen. Last orders.
Quick, to the bar, sailor. The hand of time is tapping our shoulders.
At once.
Billy skips merrily to the bar.
You foolish ape. Why does he move so swiftly? Tell me now, does that bottle contain poison or fairy dust?
I'm as shocked as you are. The man seems invincible. But I guarantee you another measure will see him dancing spasms.
Here he comes. I'll distract the bastard while you pour him another dose.
Billy returns to the table, handing out the pint of ale.
Oh, dearie me. I think I've dropped my wallet. It'll be under the table somewhere. Could be on your side, Billy.
Let me be of assistance.
Moisius pours a large glug of wood alcohol into Billy's glass, then swiftly returns the bottle back to his pocket.
Ah, call off the search. It was in my back pocket all along. Perhaps the ales are taking effect.
Billy and Kincaid get back up from under the table.
The desired effect. You can't stomach your ale as you once did. Hey, do you remember those reckless days in our youth when we would compete to see who could down their pint first?
Challenge accepted, my friend. What about you, Billy? Care to partake?
Friends, you have nothing on a sailor.
At the ready. 3, 2, 1, drink!
Get on with it, lads.
Hats off to you, Billy. You've thrown that down like a pelican.
I said it would be so. That cursed witching hour is upon us. Nobleman's cast his spell of last orders. Frog's legs and toad's grease, thistle and gristle, now we must cease from wetting our whistle.
I always thought Nobleman was attached to that broomstick.
Ah, but witches have had their ears turned by the devil. He's been known on certain occasions to remain steadfast after hours, most often having his scales tipped with silver. Perhaps he can cast us a new spell.
Every moment is an occasion. He won't refuse us.
Right, that's time.
Sit
Clear
tight,
off.
Billy. We'll speak to Nobleman.
The other customers are staggering out of the pub, saying their goodbyes on the way. Billy, Kincaid and Aloysius approach the bar.
Was the bell not loud enough?
My good man. Must we be slaves to the dictates of time?
George. You're the greatest landlord there is and ever was. My heart warms every time I look at you.
Every time I put a pint in front of you, you mean?
Of course not. Our interactions are an expression of brotherly communion. Be not a cynic. This is merely a request for an extension of our sacred conviviality.
Grace doesn't keep the barrels rolling and the candles lit.
Unfortunately not. So may I be so bold as to suggest a fee of recompense for your troubles?
Would this be enough?
Sophia, bolt the doors. We're having a lock-in.
Now there's a proposition. Another one of your finest, George.
And another 3 pints for us, kind sir.
Listen, go careful now with Billy. I don't want him having to be carried out here.
Of course. Thanks, George.
Aloysius and Kincaid return to Billy at the table. For the next 2 hours, Billy continues to drink deadly concoctions, oblivious to the danger he is in. Sophia and Billy begin to dance and sing. George is becoming weary, standing alone at the bar, lamenting his situation.
Why I agreed to this lock-in, I know not. To be truthful, I do know. Needs must, and my overheads hang over this pub like a gleaming axe, forever poised to swing and fall, through the roof and right down to the cellar, bursting my barrels asunder while I watch gallons of ale flow through the streets and my aspirations sink through the grates of the gutter and into the sewers below. This vision I seek to avoid, but I often wonder if I would be better feeding the gutters. Billy's in a wretched state, having consumed 10 sailors' worth of ale single-handedly. How he does it, I know not, but he's found the means in this pair, and his will has no lack of want. Those two seem hell-bent on facilitating his unquenching thirst, so here he remains, with no sign of coming up for air.
As we were going, she said unto me, way, blow the man down. There's a spanking full rigger just ready for sea. Give me some time to blow the man down.
Are my eyes and ears portals of the imagination? I see him standing, I hear him singing, but all science and reason informs me that he should have already taken his final gasp.
He told us he was made of metal. Maybe he is. Maybe his years at sea have hardened his constitution beyond those of any ordinary man.
But he's still flesh and blood. This should have seen him off 40 times over.
How much of the bottle do you have left?
About a quarter.
Make sure he finishes that bottle tonight.
It's starboard and larboard on deck heels small. Way, blow the man down. For kicking Jack Williams commands the Black Book. Give me some time to blow the man down.
Oh, I think you've had your last, Billy.
Don't ever take you to a pretty girl's say. Give me some time to blow the man down.
Come on, rest your legs now.
Sophia walks Billy to the table where Aloysius and Kincaid sit.
Right, that's Billy's lot. From here on in, it's water only.
Water. Wretched stuff. Wouldn't go near it.
Fret not. I'll talk him round to a stiff gin for you.
Aloysius rises to his feet and approaches the bar.
Just a water for Billy.
My God, you can barely sit upright. Make sure to walk him home after this. The water should do him good.
I agree. His drinking's getting way out of hand. We try to rein him in, but the man won't listen.
Nobody's forcing you to dive into your own wallet for his sake.
True. But we've taken such a liking to the man. He knows where our pockets are, but that's the price of his company.
Well then, you'll be pleased to hear that the water's free of charge in that case.
thanking you, sir.
Well en route to the table, Aloysius stops, drinks the water, and refills the glass with the remaining wood alcohol from his inside pocket.
A Navy strength gin for the road, my good friend.
Godspeed to you. Fair winds and following seas. Ah. The mate knocked me down with the end of a spar. Give me some time to blow the man down.
Billy! What have you done to yourself? Billy, wake up! George, over here, he's out cold.
George rushes over with a bucket of ice. He pours the contents over Billy's head, but he does not stir. Sophia stoops down and checks his wrist and neck for a pulse.
I can't feel a pulse.
Oh, good God. Heaven forbid.
It cannot be!
He's gone.
Please tell me it isn't so, my dear, beloved friend.
How can this be? I cannot bear the thought. Kincaid, pass me a handkerchief.
We must call for the undertaker.
Wait, he's snoring. He's not dead. He's asleep. Thank heavens.
I can't believe it. I was certain his pulse had stopped. Thank goodness for that.
What on earth? Are you definitely sure he's snoring?
Listen.
Well, I'll be damned. He's still alive. Thank God. Our dear friend is still amongst us.
He's gotten away with one here, lads. He could have easily drank himself to death tonight. I'm telling you now, there'll be no more lock-ins on my watch. You two get yourselves home. Billy can sleep it off here.
Sophia, relieved beyond all measure, fetches a blanket and places it over Billy. Aloysius and Kincaid, carefully concealing their disappointment, gather their coats and hats, then exit the pub. Act 2, Scene 2. The following night, Kincaid and Aloysius are in a barn, mixing poisons into a bucket and pouring the concoction into 2 large bottles. There is a fire in the middle of the barn with a pot of stew simmering away in it. A mighty blizzard is mercilessly battering away at the barn, wind howling bloody murder. The surrounding fields are buried beneath a foot of snow.
And what's in the green jar to your right?
Rat poison, industrial strength. Pinched it from the abattoir.
And the metal flask on the workbench.
That, my friend, is paint stripper from the shipyard. Highly corrosive.
Did you bring the strychnine?
Of course.
Ah, you've been a busy fellow. Pop it into those 2 bottles and give them a good shake. And let's top it off with a drop of actual whiskey for good luck. There's some in my hip flask. That'll give it a nice smoky finish. There's no chance he'll notice anything's amiss.
He gladly glugged down the wood alcohol in its purest form last night, having been told it was the finest of gins. If he recognises something's amiss, we can tell him it's a special regional variety of Hebridean single malt. A swig of this would put most men to their graves, so a full bottle should more than suffice. And if he's still singing after finishing it, we have another one in reserve. Job done. Are you sure he comes past here on his way home?
I've seen him walk this route many a time. His drunken footsteps have carved the path through this field, and they pass the barn nightly without fail. We'll have his drunkenness in our favour. He'll be swaying like a daisy by the time he gets here. Many witnesses will have seen him leaving the pub plastered, and then venturing unsteadily through the snow. There'll be little suspicion if he's found dead, having not made it back home.
Perfect. Who could turn down the offer of a warm fire, bottle of whiskey, and a nice hot bowl of cabbage stew in these Arctic conditions?
We'll coax him in like a stray cat in want of kippers.
And then we'll finish the job.
Thought I'd taken leave of my senses when I heard him snoring last night. By right, he should be splayed out in a wooden basket with the undertaker combing his hair and buttoning up his shirt.
He will be tomorrow. Tonight, we have him all to ourselves, with every conceivable poison to hand.
How's the stew coming along?
Simmering away nicely. It could do with a sprinkling of herbs and spices.
Add in the cyanide and the arsenic. My God, he's damned. Don't forget to throw in the carpet tacks and the crushed glass.
Ah, yes. Where did I put them?
Wait, I can hear him. Go and fetch the stupid fucker.
Blow him away.
Billy!
Give me some time
Billy!
to blow the man down.
My good man! Over here! It's me, Aloysius! Good heavens! I could pick out that angelic voice anywhere.
Oh, Aloysius, what a blessing it is to see a kind face in the midst of this blizzard.
It's a blessing indeed. Come in from the cold. We have a fire burning and a pot bubbling.
My God, pot of what?
Cabbage stew, picked this morning and seasoned to perfection.
Good heavens.
And we have some rare whiskey indeed for you. 2 bottles procured from our merchant who assured us of its virtues.
Yo, whiskey?
Billy! Are my eyes deceiving me? What brings you here? It's great to see you back on your feet again.
Up and fighting. It was the wariness of the liquors that did it. But Nobleman kindly offered me lodgings for the night, and I slept like a newborn babe.
That's great to hear. Take a pew. What time did you wake up?
About noonish. It's only the smell of bacon and sausages that could bring me round. I'll tell you what, lads, there's nothing like being suspended in the midst of a dreamless sleep. Sophia had come round to check on me and lie on my stomach. She's an angel, that one.
That she is. And we're your angels tonight, bringing warmth and light and food and sustenance, drink and gaiety.
And what an apparition to behold. Angels are rarely stumbled upon. They normally stumble upon you.
And they rarely have any whiskey to hand. Try this, Billy.
You're too kind. My God. That's the finest whiskey to ever have touched my lips.
Ah, that's a rare malt right there. 700 years of Hebridean wisdom and craft are instilled into that whiskey. Our merchant had it picked out with you in mind, knowing you to be a former sailor. This has been a favourite among generations of Hebridean fishermen, giving warmth and solace on choppy waters.
At sea, a whiskey this good could never go unshared. Where are your glasses, gents?
A generous offer, but unfortunately I have a medical condition, an aversion of sorts which prevents my partaking in whiskey. Many a physician has been mystified by it, but it is what it is. How about you, Kincaid?
Well, it's very kind of you. Whiskey brings upon me a terribly maudlin disposition, a morbid frame of mind, a man whose company you or I would not want to share. So please help yourself to it, Billy.
I'll have one on both of you then. I always took a bottle with me on ship, for company while on watch. Reminds me of the time. A big storm. Very big storm. Waves taller than houses. Winds howling like souls in purgatory. Jagged bolts of unholy lightning bringing chaos to the sky. Thunder shaking the guts. Enough rain to fill the ocean. There I stood on watch, clinging desperately to the bow, praying to God Almighty with whiskey as my only shelter. Our old ship creaked and groaned under the duress of those immense conditions. She descended into a steep valley, and I was thrown overboard, landing in the ice-cold waves, gasping for breath while treading water. I remained in this condition for some time, contemplating my imminent death, and suddenly all fell silent and pitch black. So this is it, I thought to myself. The hour hath come. Strange it was, though. I could feel all limbs intact, and I could taste salt water still. I began to blindly fumble around. I felt myself cocooned in a warm, padded cell, as if in utero. So the Bible had it wrong, I thought. There was no heaven or hell. All of the evidence suggested I was to be reborn, that I'd emerge on some hospital bed, all memories eradicated, wailing and screaming, completely ignorant to the world, and ready to start afresh. So, in anticipation, I curled up into a ball, and waited, until without warning, I was suddenly ejected, but found myself flying through the air towards the very ship from whence I came. At which point I was compelled, mid-flight, to reassess my theory, modifying it to the notion of having an out-of-body experience and expecting to see myself in the waters, but I was unable to do so. I then landed with a huge thud, back onto the ship's deck, all starry-headed. I quickly came to my senses, and I looked out past the bow into the gaping mouth of a semi-surface whale, from which my body had been spat out. I was absolutely speechless. I wanted to give thanks to the whale, but it resubmerged before I could do so, and at that point, the next watchman arrived on deck to relieve me of my duties. I didn't mention what happened for fear of terrifying the man. He was one of the younger shipmates, and besides, who would believe me? So I've never spoken a word of this until now, but rest assured, every word of it is true.
Good God, man! Did all that really happen?
I swear it, on the souls of me fallen friends.
Incredible. What a life you've lived.
What a life I'm living. I'm much more contented now on dry land, with good company and limitless ales.
And access to fresh cabbages for delectable stews.
How could I forget? I'll warm me innards with a bowl now, if you don't mind.
Certainly. Please do. We've had our fills.
Billy spoons a large portion of cabbage stew into a bowl, hurriedly eats it, then returns for a second helping and sits back down with Kincaid and Aloysius.
Ah, the warmth of a good stew. It nourishes both body and soul, bringing respite and peace to man in his totality. I haven't tasted spices like this since I was floating on the Arabian Seas. Reminds me of the summer, 6 years ago, when...
It's a special blend, tailored specifically for discerning palates. We have a spice merchant out of town. He has ships coming in from every corner of the globe.
You must introduce me to him.
Of course. He'd be delighted to make your acquaintance. We'll make the necessary arrangements.
How's that Hebridean going down?
Ah, she's beautiful. She brings about a whirling motion to the senses. A blurring of colours that coalesce in unearthly patterns before the eyes. I can see what those sailors must have seen in her. It elevates the mind onto a calmer plane of existence, where all visual perceptions present themselves as belonging to one unified entity. So strange this experience is. Seems as if one could touch upon the spiritual realm in such a state as this. My hands, for instance, they possess a dreamlike quality. They project the appearance of every hand on this earth. My frostbitten toes are warmed by the waters of an ever-flowing river upon which past, present and future are simultaneously manifested. I can see the sounds of my words colourfully flowing from my mouth and merging like frolicking angels with the fire. The smoke is beckoning me in some unknown ancient tongue. I know somehow what it speaks of, which is that no thing passes by without appropriating the stamp of eternity. All things to have ever existed exist in one instance, and that instance always exists. We are but shadow puppets, dancing in the rain to the ever-beating drum of our one true God.
Presumably it's taking good effect then.
Marvellous. I'm entering the realm of jungle deities. I beseech you to embark upon this bamboo raft of mine. We'll head downstream through the valley of timeless space, beneath the mountains, then into the caves where the cradled sun gives birth to all dreams.
Your bamboo raft?
Yeah, up aboard, we'll sail on down. But first, I need a piss.
Billy staggers outside into the blizzard.
It's certainly working in some way or another.
Well, his brain is definitely cooked. A strange form of madness. It looks like it's working. A few more swigs should do the trick.
We need to be 100% certain. We can't have him snoring this time. We need to turn his lights out good and proper.
Get the glass and the carpet sacks in there, quick as you can now.
If the poisons don't do the job, these will cut his insides to ribbons. No getting out of this one.
That's him coming back now.
Streams of urine, streams of consciousness. They flow from the same river into the same ocean. The moon was smiling down upon me, silver and rejoiceful.
Billy, there's no moon up there. You can't see a thing for all the snow.
He's always up there, forever smiling, waiting for his mistress, the sun. I asked if I could join him, so he could tell me all about the mysteries of the constellations. He was ready to oblige, but then a great stag appeared. Not your ordinary run-of-the-mill stag. This one was luminous, with spinning top eyes and antlers the size of oak trees.
Don't see many of them about.
Not ordinarily, no. He spoke eloquently, with 1,000 voices, all of which told me to get inside before I freeze me bollocks off.
We're grateful that he did. Have a drink to warm yourself back up.
With pleasure. This is a great malt. There's real sharpness to it. The texture is delightful. It sits on the tongue like a sparkling dew, fresh in the morning's meadows. I can feel the busying spirits of a million glowworms feasting hungrily on my heart. And when I open my mouth, a legion of butterflies, their white wings flecked with red, vacate and go forth into the tucked-away realms of nature's unseen imagination.
You've quite the imagination yourself, Billy.
What else is there in life? I can't thank you enough for this, lads. When I saw the light shining from the barn door across the field, I had an inkling you two would be behind it. I must confess, the spirits have taken a firm hold of me. I feel this voyage is coming to an end, as all voyages must. My arms and legs are weakened with weariness. My heart pounds as it ever has, but all my bodily parts seem to be grinding to a halt. The blizzard is coming to my eyes, your faces, blurry, veiled.
Billy, you're worrying us to bits. Lie down and rest up. I'll fetch a blanket.
Is that you, Kincaid?
It's me, Billy, Aloysius. Let me put this blanket over you.
Do you want us to fetch the doctor, Billy?
There's no use for him here. Take me hands, lads, please.
Come on, Billy, you'll be singing and dancing away by tomorrow. You've survived far worse than this.
No. It's always the liquor that gets the sailor in the end. My time's up.
Just rest up and all will be well by the morning.
I'm lucky to have you lads with me. Promise me the wives will get their money.
If worst comes to worst, then they will.
We'll deliver it to them in person.
I'm certain you will. Salt of the earth, you lads. I'll see you in the next one.
Kincaid and Aloysius are knelt by Billy's side, each clasping one hand. Billy's eyes roll to the back of his head. Kincaid and Aloysius release their grip as his body stiffens. They stand over it, looking down contemptuously.
The insufferable bastard. He's finally snuffed it.
Hold your horses. Check his pulse first.
Dead as dead can be.
Took him long enough. Let's dump his corpse out in the field. Poor old Billy boy, lost in a blizzard and frozen to death on his way home.
We'll need to find the addresses of those widows once we've received our cheque.
You take the legs.
Kincaid and Aloysius both lift Billy from the ground. His hat falls to the floor, unnoticed. They leave the barn. Sophia enters the barn. She looks around quizzically, noticing 3 hay bales laid out as chairs, numerous empty bottles, and Billy's hat lying on the floor. Sophia picks up the hat, dusts it off, and places it into her pocket. She picks up a small bucket and throws it over the glowing embers of the fire. Flames burst upwards and burn bright red. She gasps and hurriedly stamps out the fire before hastily exiting. Act 2, Scene 3. George and Sophia are alone in the pub, talking from either side of the bar.
When will this damn storm free us from her turbulent wrath?
Whenever she's ready.
She can't go on for much longer. That's another 2 feet of snow piled up overnight. Does she not realise how much money she's costing me? Not a single customer in sight.
Am I not one of your customers? And can you blame the rest of them in this weather?
The gates of hell could burst open, burning the place to a cinder, and you and Billy would still be sat happily at the bar. I can't have many more nights like last night. Just the two of you here like beams propping up the place.
I wouldn't want a beam like Billy propping the place up. He'd be leaning towards the whiskey barrels, drunk, contorted, and singing while the roof folds in. Did you see how pissed he was last night? We could barely guide him through the door. And then, on my way home, I discovered he has a little after-hours drinking den. The old O'Driscoll barn on Keynes Hill.
What did he say when you caught him?
He'd only just left. It looked to me like he'd been boozing up with his two new pals. They had a right set-up. 3 hay bales circled round a fire and enough bottles to fill up your back bar. He'd left his hat behind. I can't even imagine how scandalously drunk he must have been by then. And the stuff they were drinking. It must have been bootleg or homebrew or something. I picked up a bucket of the stuff thinking it was water and threw it onto the fire, and the flame shot up bright red. It was as if Lucifer himself was about to show his face.
It's a good job I wasn't there. I can't stand to be in the presence of knock-off booze. I would have set fire to the lot. By God, that barn, on the top of that hill, it's a miracle it didn't fall down on them. Did you see the roof of the old McKinnon's farmhouse this morning? It blew off and took flight 100 yards over yonder like a paper aeroplane.
Lucky you've got me here then, to keep the place propped up and standing. I'm only here because my pipes are frozen over, you know.
That reminds me, I need to boil up some water for the tank.
Were you drinking last night, George?
No, sober as none.
I was just wondering, what was it that gave you the courage to kiss me? Or were you just looking for someone to warm your bed?
Do you know what, Sophia? When you see the world around you caving in, battering the walls, beating at the windows, it teaches you that all you have is not to be taken for granted. It guides you to your truest self.
Well, it was certainly nice to meet your truest self. You should ask him to stop by more often. Or does he only come out in a blizzard?
You know very well I never fully recovered from the loss of Euphemia, but perhaps that's because I never allowed myself to. I haven't been entirely fair to you, always keeping the bar between us, tending to my work while convincing myself that I should forever stand alone in this world, blinding myself to your beauty and your kind-heartedness.
George and Sophia hold hands over the bar, gazing into one another's eyes. At the sounds of the door opening, they relinquish hands. Kincaid and Aloysius enter the pub and approach the bar, visibly cold, shivering and dusting snow from their coats.
2 pints of bitter, please, George.
And a new set of bollocks because mine are frozen off.
I didn't know you had a pair to begin with.
Well, they're out for the crows now.
So, what were you lads up to last night?
We were batting down the hatches at my place, going over our accounts with a fine-tooth comb. A job well overdue.
Was Billy here last night? We've not seen him since he went all Sleeping Beauty at the lock-in.
He was here all right, you couldn't miss him. Listen lads, I don't want a repeat of the histrionics we had at the lock-in. He won't cut himself off, so others need to do that for him.
It's funny you mention that. Aloysius and myself were saying exactly the same thing on the way here. After that lock-in, we've wholeheartedly resolved to curb his drinking.
It can't be good for your pockets either, lads.
No, it's not. But we think so fondly of the man that it becomes impossible for us to restrain our generosity. But we will endeavour to hold back from now on, for the sake of his health.
What sort of a state was he in last night?
He was 7 sheets to the wind.
Oh no. Would he have made it home safely in such a state, given the conditions? Did anybody offer to walk him home?
I did, as a matter of fact. But you know how stubborn he can be. He disappeared off into the night before I could insist a second time.
Pull the other one, lads. He was drinking with the both of you last night at the O'Driscoll's barn. I saw it all laid out after you'd left. 3 hay bales around the fire. Nice little drinking den you've got there.
Ugh. What makes you think that was us?
Who else would it have been? It was all set up for the 3 of you. Billy had left his hat on the ground.
We had nothing to do with it. We're businessmen. We've no desire to drink in squalid barns.
We can all ask him who his secret drinking companions are when he gets here.
Absolutely. He should be here by now. It'll be interesting to hear what he got up to in that barn. Do you want to take that table, Aloysius?
Kincaid and Aloysius walk over to their usual table and sit down.
We're done for. That nosy witch, sticking her beak in where it has no business. Our alibi's compromised. She's placed us at the very spot of the murder, with all the equipment laid out.
Keep your voice down, man, and get some sense in you. There remains no witness to corroborate her suspicions. We amount to more than 2 bales of hay as far as any reasonable person is concerned. He'll be found alone just as he was seen, leaving here alone. And if I hear you uttering the word murder again in a public place, I'll murder you.
You've just said it twice yourself. I'm right to be worried. Sophia can be very persistent.
Nah, she's as thick as 2 short planks.
But she has an overzealous imagination. She's already deduced that we were in that barn with him.
We've put that one to rest. Even if she did put 2 and 2 together, she has the sum total of 1 hat and an empty barn. She cannot prove that we were there.
You're right. It must be the effects of this blizzard. It's clouding my focus.
Exactly. If anything, we should be celebrating.
No. Save the celebrations for when we have the money in hand. Let it be seen that we are expectantly awaiting our dear friend's arrival.
Well, we're in for a long wait.
God, who will be the one to find him in this weather?
Some doddering old farmer once the snow has thawed, by which time the ravens will be getting a good meal out of him.
We'll get many good meals out of him when the cheque comes through.
Foie gras and fresh figs for breakfast.
Plated on Asiatic china, deftly placed to our front by a thinly moustached butler wearing white gloves and bearing a silver tray.
We'll go about by horse and carriage, alighting only for the finest restaurants and brothels in all the land, where we'll be received with open arms. Our summer in the country, shooting pheasants by day, and not the scrawny fuckers we get around here. They'll be plump and majestic. Then after a day of shooting, I'll retire to my aviary of exotic stuffed birds of paradise. My harpers will provide the perfect backdrop to the showcasing of my snooker skills. Bedazzled guests will gasp in awe as I sink the black from the obtusest of angles, against all odds, with great panache, galvanising them into sudden applause while I take my bow. We'll be swimming in champagne, laced with diamonds and rubies, and when...
Can I stop you there, Your Royal Highness? This is all very well and good, but for now, until the curtain falls, we must continue to act out our roles, like seasoned thespians, displaying exactly the kind of shock and despair that grieving friends should.
Of course.
And during this time, we must be clear that we're increasingly worried about the whereabouts of our poor friend, who was last seen stepping out in the midst of a ferocious blizzard. Let's go up to the bar and fool these stupid fools.
Kincaid and Aloysius approached the bar.
Nobleman, the two of us are getting more and more concerned. It's gone 6 o'clock and you can usually set your watch by Billy being here at 3.
I'm starting to wonder if he got home safely in this terrible weather. He must have been struggling against the elements to have gone into that barn, and it's another half mile to his house from there.
He's probably toasting his feet by the fire, having wisely decided to avoid the blizzard.
When has Billy ever wisely decided not to come to the pub? They're right to say he should be here at 3 on the dot.
The more I think of it, the more it troubles me. At the very least, for peace of mind, I reckon we should light some lamps and gather a search party.
Billy crashes through the front door. Kincaid and Aloysius look on with ashen, gasping faces of incredulity. Billy strides towards the bar, caked in snow like an animate snowman.
Ho ho ho! How good it is to be back within these 4 sacred walls.
Billy?
Oh, fetch the cat o' nine tails. That's good ale gone to waste. What's gone into you, lads? You like you've seen a ghost.
We were worried about you, Billy.
The prodigal son returns! Come on, Billy, take a seat over here. Aloysius will get around him once he's cleaned up his mess.
Billy and Kincaid sit at their usual table.
Oh, it's blowy out there. The roof of McKinnon's house has come clean off.
I know.
I stumbled across Miss Summerton's Moggy on the way here. Poor thing is frozen mid-motion while licking its hind leg and remains solid as an icicle. What's she thinking leaving her out in this blizzard?
Aloysius returns to the table with 3 ales.
You're late to the pub, Billy. We were getting concerned that you hadn't made it home last night.
Well, that appears to be the case. I only just woke this afternoon in the middle of a field on Cairns Hill. I had to dig myself out of 3 feet of snow.
My poor man. That sounds atrocious.
On the contrary, I'll never know a more luxurious bed. Heaven knows how I got there, but I thank my blessings that I did.
Luxurious? You could have easily ended up like Mrs. Summerton's cat.
But I didn't. I experienced the tranquility that the Inuits have found in the warmth of their igloos. The snow formed a velvet cocoon, softer than eider's down, warmer than lamb's wool. I undulated between two distinct states, one of being suspended in time and space, deathless and open to all possibilities. The other consisted of lucid dreaming, where I wandered bollock naked through a summer meadow, beneath the gleaming arch of a benevolent rainbow. I made my way into a shallow stream and paddled in tandem with the gentle, soothing current which led me to the enchanting beauty of 3 forest nymphs, who danced around me singing harmonious melodies while adorning my hair with flowers. When I awoke, I felt my hair for the flowers, expecting to be in the place where they'd left them. Such was the vividness of my experience.
How wonderful.
How did you end up in that field?
I'm not quite sure. I must have stumbled into it on the way back from here last night. I couldn't see past my own nose in that storm. The wind must have knocked me to the ground into my unwitting bed. Last I remember, I was leaving through those doors while Nobleman was shutting up shop.
Kincaid and Aloysius appear visibly relieved. Billy finishes the remainder of his pint.
Any chance of another, lads?
Aloysius, get around in.
I got the last one. Delve into your own pockets.
Kincaid sighs, then heads over to the bar. Sophia approaches the table and takes his seat.
I'm glad you made it here in one piece, Billy. These lads were on the cusp of going out with lamps and shovels, worried sick about you.
I've seen off worse storms than this.
Good thing you found that barn for shelter.
What barn?
Have you heard the news? Apparently Nobleman's going to lower the urinals out back. Not a moment too soon.
Are you joking? What a time to be alive.
Kincaid returns with drinks in hand. Realising Sophia is at the table, he fumbles around for a spare stool and takes his place between Sophia and Billy.
Kincaid, we were just celebrating the excellent news of upcoming lavatorial adjustments, apparently due to take place within the next week.
Well, it's the first I've heard of it.
So you've decided to brave the storm hatless, Billy?
It appears so.
Don't worry. Here it is. I found it in the O'Driscoll's barn last night. Looks like you stopped off for a nightcap.
The plot thickens.
Strange indeed. You are a man of mystery, Billy.
You know, personally, I'd sooner have Nobleman put some coals in the fire than adjust those urinals.
The old Driscoll barn. I chanced upon it. Wait a minute. It's all coming back. I remember now. You were there, Kincaid. And you, Aloysius. You called me in from the storm. The stew. That cabbage stew. The Hebridean malt.
It's nothing to be ashamed of, lads.
No, you're completely mistaken, Billy. We were in no barn. This sounds like another one of your fantastical dreams.
We were both at my place, going through our accounts. You're speaking nonsense, Billy.
No, the 3 of us were together. You gave me cabbage stew and a fine bottle of whiskey from your out-of-town merchant.
I'll leave you 3 to work this out for yourselves.
You were in that barn with me. What's the problem?
We considered you a man of sound mind.
I hope you're not suggesting that we're liars.
Of course not. But I remember it clear as day now. You handed me that whiskey yourself. The whiskey that was passed down from generation to generation of Hebridean fishermen.
Why would we be sitting in a barn drinking whiskey? I have an aversion to the stuff and Kincaid can't stand it.
And what other strange recollections do you have from this alleged barn encounter?
You'd bought whiskey for me. And it was a beautiful malt. Could put airs on the chest of a dolphin. I then conversed with jungle deities while sailing down a river on my bamboo raft. It had a mast with an antelope's skull mounted on its peak.
And where did you get all this bamboo from?
I don't know.
Quite likely you've dreamt the whole thing up then. We're businessmen. We don't do our drinking in squalid barns. So please refrain from sullying our good names in public to suit your whimsical fancies. Plucking us out from the depths of your febrile imagination, like fictional characters in the pages of some grand fairy tale. It won't do.
And in the real world, we've got work to tend to. So we'll be getting off now. Why don't you ask Sophia if she'll cover your drinks for the rest of the night?
Kincaid and Aloysius put on their jackets and exit, leaving Billy sullen and dejected. Sophia approaches the table.
Everything all right, Billy?
I suppose so.
What's that under the table? Is that yours?
Oh, one of the lads must have dropped it. I'll give it back to him when I see him next, whenever that'll be.
All right then. I'm sat at the bar if you want to join me.
Sophia returns to the bar. Billy stoops down and picks up a wax-sealed document from under the table, then places it in his trouser pocket. Act 2, Scene 4. Kincaid and Lucius enter their lockup, which is filled with piles of various stolen goods. They remove their snowy jackets and hang them onto a crooked peg. They frantically pace the room.
My God. It's all over. All our hard work has been reduced to rubble. Where's the justice in this world?
The man's invincible. We've poisoned his guts inside out, all to no avail. We've left him lying unconscious, dead as any man could tell, buried deep beneath the freezing snow, and still we failed to blow his candle out.
Wood alcohol, paint stripper, rodenticide, cyanide, turpentine, and those mushrooms, what were they?
Funeral bells and death caps. Those were a bastard to find, foraging like an animal on hands and knees.
Shards of glass, rusted nails, arsenic, and women's hair bleach. All of this he gulped down like oysters. Giddy as a schoolboy, smiling and laughing in our faces, then asking for more.
He feasted on it with insatiable delight.
And now I've a profound sense he was laughing at us all the while.
And he'll be sat there laughing at us now.
We left him poisoned to the gills, ordained to die like a filthy vagrant in the snow, only for the swinging doors to announce his entrance, swaggering forth like the grinning Lamb of God.
He's completely unstoppable, for fuck's sake! We've invested so much in this endeavour. We need to recoup our losses, pronto! We can start shifting some of this gear out tomorrow.
Oh, what, this old pile of shite we can never sell in the first place? Stealing from the poor to sell back to the poor was never a sound mode of business. Can't believe we used to shill this tat with straight faces. Look at this. A one-eyed, one-winged, stuffed parrot.
Kincaid picks up the stuffed parrot and violently kicks it across the room into a stack of crockery.
There's only one way for us to recoup our losses and salvage our dignity.
But Kincaid, there is no way. The last 2 nights have demonstrated that beyond all measure. It's time we threw the towel in.
Get a hold of yourself, man. The worst thing we could do is stand still. He's piecing his memories back together as we speak, and I'm starting to reckon he's not as daft as he looks. Not to mention, come tomorrow the money will be his to squander. The moment to act is now.
I hear you, but how exactly do you propose to finish this?
Extraordinary circumstances require extraordinary measures.
Kincaid walks over to a cabinet, unlocks it with a key, pulls out 2 shotguns and hands one to Aloysius. Act 3, Scene 1. Back in the pub that same evening, George and Sophia stand either side of the bar. Billy remains seated at his table.
I was starting to worry about him earlier on, you know. I was more relieved than I let on when he came crashing through the door.
I could offer him lodgings until the storm abates, but I know he'd only wave me away as soon as I did.
How much would you charge him?
If he had a penny to his name, I wouldn't take it off him, and you know that.
I've never known you to be so cavalier with your pennies. Upgraded urinals, and now you're thinking of dishing out free lodgings.
I haven't touched the urinals. There's nothing wrong with them. All my patrons are perfectly fine tiptoes for standing on. It's the closest they'll come to ballet. Let them exercise some poise and agility.
Oh, you're mad, George.
And as for the free lodgings, if it keeps him sheltered and warm and keeps my mind at ease, then I'm more than happy to offer it to him. It wasn't long ago that the poor man used my roof as a diving board. I want to keep him safe and well for when his money comes through. You should have seen the joy on his face when he realised he could help those women and their children.
He has such a kind heart. As do you, George.
Sophia and George hold hands from either side of the bar.
It's a kindness I've had to relearn, and it's you that's taught me to be kind again. Sophia, do you know that I'm in love with you? I love the bones of you.
Oh, George, and I love you. Oh, but you already know that.
I'm sorry it's taken me until now to come to my senses, but I know now.
George paces behind the bar, then walks purposefully out the other side, next to Sophia. He gets down on one knee, then produces a ring from his apron pocket.
Sophia, will you marry me? Will you do me the honour of being my wife? I want us to spend the rest of our days together.
Oh, George, of course I will. Yes, yes, and yes again.
George rises to his feet. They kiss and embrace.
Billy, come over here. We have some good news for you.
What is it?
Sophia's going to make an honest man out of me.
You got your work cut out for you there. How exactly do you intend to do that?
We're tying the knot.
Well, you've come to the right man. I know, have you not in the book? What does it needs tying?
Billy, Sophia and I are engaged to be married.
Oh, goodness, you should have said. That's excellent news. George, you dark horse, you.
Let's celebrate. Champagne for my fiancée and good friend.
A toast to the finest landlord and soon-to-be finest landlady.
The finest and the fairest landlady. I'm certain of it.
So, when do you plan to be wedded?
As soon as the fates allow. Once I have the money saved, we'll put on a beautiful ceremony. I know of a castle has a luscious orange grove within its walls. It's a place of unfathomable beauty, glowing in the midday sun with the song of bluebirds carried by the breeze. Those majestic creatures sanctified every blade of grass upon which I walked. You know, Sophia, it was during my last visit there, I imagined marrying you in that spot, beneath the swaying branches of those timeless orange trees.
That sounds beautiful. I had no idea that you were thinking about me in that way.
My heart has wanted you for a long time, but my grief and sense of propriety has kept me locked into a state of inertia. Euphemia would have laughed at my foolishness. She would have wanted me to be happy for the rest of my days. When I open my eyes in the morning, I want your face to be the first thing I see, and the last thing I see when I close them at night. I'll do everything within my power to keep you smiling for the rest of our lives.
I know you will, George. You're a brilliant man, and a kind man, and a handsome man.
Indeed, such men as us are a rarity.
And there's no indignity in having stood in wait for so long for a man like you.
But there's plenty of foolishness in me having you wait.
Ah, but only fools rush in too quickly. And we've more time ahead of us than we do behind us. The ring's gorgeous, George. You needn't spend so much on the wedding. I'd marry you in that barn on Cain's Hill with Billy as priest if need be. The point is that we'll be together.
You're right. We could do this by the end of the week if we desired. Billy, we'll find you a collar of the cloth. Can you take your vows by Friday?
Or a general register office. Billy's close to a page boy anyway.
Right you are. I've been drinking from the elixir of youth.
The more I think of it, the more perfect it seems. All the sooner for us to go about our lives together.
Exactly.
We'll make a fine home out of the upstairs quarters, decorating them piece by piece once you've moved in. But there's no obligation for you to share the burden of this pub if you don't want to.
No, I'd love to, George. I'm sick of working for that cantankerous old seamstress who hasn't put so much as a stitch my way for the past month.
Well then, this place will be all the better with you as its landlady. You're adored by everyone here, and you know the place inside out. We could always move into a lovely cottage overlooking the sea, if circumstances change and we find we no longer have enough room.
George, you randy bugger.
Oh, that sounds wonderful, George. All in good time.
Care for a top-up, Billy?
Much obliged.
Where did your pals head off to?
They went off to do their accounts. Don't think I'll be seeing them anytime soon.
And why is that?
It's just the barn last night. I swear to God it was them. I know it was them. They beckoned me in. They fed me stew, kept me topped up with whiskey. My memory's unclear, but on that point I'm certain. They're telling me I jumped the whole thing up. I I think I've ruffled their feathers. They had a nasty look about them before they left.
Well, of course they were in the barn with you. Who else could it have been? I saw it all laid out last night. 3 hay bales around a fire, booze strewn about all over the place, and your hat lying on the floor. I don't understand why they are so adamantly denying it.
Well, perhaps they don't want to get them back to me that they've been concocting illegal liquor.
I suppose so, but that doesn't explain why they were so hostile towards our Billy. I don't trust those two. You're better off with us anyway.
That you are. And you're staying here tonight, Billy. I won't have you out in that blizzard again. Let's forget about those two and celebrate.
Here, here. Oh, marvellous, darling. An exquisite bouquet. Oh, if I were a Frenchman, I'd have this morning, noon and night. I'd brush my teeth with the stuff. I must admit, this is the first time I've ever drank champagne. And what a fitting occasion this is for it.
Champagne has never touched worthier lips. Those of a man whose generosity seeks nothing less than the alleviation of poverty among widows and children. George has told me all about what you're going to do when the money comes through. You're not a champagne drinker because champagne drinkers seek only their own enrichment.
That's very kind of you, but I'm only doing what's right and proper.
What I'm trying to say is, you've never sought champagne, whereas those two pals of yours are champagne seekers. I can see it in them. Always on the fiddle, looking out for themselves only.
Well, I must say, they've taken good care of me up till now, quenching my thirst at the drop of a hat.
I've been struggling to get my head around that one. Prior to last week, they'd never cared to speak so much as a single word to you. And now they're supplying you with limitless ales? They never were the charitable types.
Well, I found them to be quite charitable up until this evening. The charity isn't plainly visible, but they certainly have charity in them. Just the other day there, they had me sign their petition for the blind school.
What was that? I wasn't asked to sign any petition.
It was for some new desks and furnishings. They'd drawn up a petition and were frustrated that so few had signed it.
It would have helped if they'd actually asked folk to sign it. Did they ask you?
No, haven't heard a word of it. I'd be wary of those two. They always were a pair of tin pot cowboys.
I get the feeling that the barrel's run dry with those two anyway. Never mind. Here I am and I'm never short of good company. I'm happy beyond all measure that my two friends will soon be married. So let's drink to that.
Let's get a song going, Billy.
Here's one for you. I set to sail as a country lad to make a dream come true. A full-blown wind took a hard astern that blew from Timbuktu. We went down like an anchor chain, I thought that we would drown. Swam belly up and cried like hell, where you can't hold a good man down.
Well done, Billy. Brilliant.
Right, I'll take the next verse, but I'll need to dress up as you to pull it off. Pass me your coat and your hat.
Good God, it's like looking in a mirror.
Was devil's torment, tack and rum that kept the fear at bay. But a navy sail on the starboard bow was getting in our way. Our broadside rained like a fire from hell, we made the beggars pay. But we did not see the giant wave that took our keel away.
Now we're way-o, can't blow the man down. 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 Hey! Oh, thank you. I'll just nip to the gents. This champagne's gone straight to me bladder.
That reminds me, I've got another bottle down in the cellar.
Billy leaves for the gents. George lifts the hatch behind the bar and goes down into the cellar. Sophia remains standing in Billy's hat and coat.
Come all ye young fellows who follow the sea. Way, hey, blow the man down. And pray pay attention and listen to me. Give me some time to blow the man down.
The pub doors burst open. Two balaclava-clad figures come rushing in and open fire on Sophia, who falls to the ground. One figure stands over the body, while the other reaches over the bar and empties the till. Sophia lies in a pool of her blood, her face disfigured beyond recognition, brains splattered out across the floor. They run back out of the main door. George comes out through the cellar hatch. Billy rushes back from the gents. Both drop to their knees over Sophia's body and begin to wail.
Oh my God.
Oh, God, no. Sophia?
Oh.
Act 3, Scene 2. That same evening, Kincaid and Moises entered the O'Driscoll's barn.
Finally, the deed is done.
But at what cost?
The only cost incurred was that of Applegarth's life. And that was no life at all.
But it will be a problem if some half-witted detective places us behind the barrels of those shotguns.
How so? It was perfect. More perfect than we could have imagined. No witnesses in sight, and the till being emptied. All 10 pence of it. A simple case of a man who got in the way of a robbery. He'll be thought of as a hero, and we'll be the first to raise a toast to his bravery.
Are you absolutely sure he's dead this time?
Did you not see his head? Or what was left of it? Clumps of brain matter and skull fragments strewn about in a pool of his own blood. Nothing left of his face. He's not waking up from that.
Okay. But we should have just stuck to the original plan and shot him on his way home.
But there's no feasible motive behind his murder. We were stood out in the cold for 3 whole hours. Last order's long gone. He may have intended to stay the night there and then we wouldn't have had our chance.
Well, we still have the murder weapons to hand. These need disposing of. The sooner the better.
And why is that? It's widely known that I shoot pheasants. We're not armed robbers. We're businessmen.
No, you're just being complacent now. We need to bury them.
The last thing we need is to be seen burying shotguns after what's just happened.
After this, we're no longer businessmen. We're now murderers. And the tools of our trade need to be concealed.
Very well. Very well. I know a patch of barren waste ground, a mile north of here. Once all this is blown over, we'll bury them there. But for now, let's hide them beneath those hay bales.
Okay, that'll have to do for now.
I've left the lamps on in the house, so if anyone asks, we were up all night going through our accounts. And when tomorrow comes, we'll head down to the pub, ignorant of tonight's events, looking to buy our mate Billy a pint. And then we'll fall to our knees at the news of our good friend's untimely departure.
Crying out for justice, kindly offering our assistance to track down the robbers, whoever they might be. Do you reckon Nobleman will reopen the pub tomorrow after what's happened?
Well, that tight bastard! I'd certainly imagine so. And if he doesn't, we'll show our faces all the same.
Act 3, Scene 3. The following morning, George and Billy are in the pub, which is locked up from the inside. George is distraught, mopping Sophia's blood from the floor. Billy sits on a stool with his head in his hands.
George, your hands are trembling. Let me take hold of the mop. You shouldn't have to do this.
I want to do this. I need to do this. These are my floorboards and it's my duty to remove the stains of her murder. My fiancée's murder. And this act is nothing. Nothing compared to the agony of her loss.
She's a wonderful person. This couldn't have happened to someone so undeserving. I'm so sorry, George. Can I pour you a drink to ease your nerves?
No. Actually, I'll have whiskey. Make sure to pour yourself one, Billy.
Billy pours another for himself and brings the whiskies to a table. George puts down the mop and joins him.
I hope they catch the bastards who did this.
All we know is there are at least 2 of them going off the gunshots. The police asked many questions, but were clearly short of ideas. Most likely, they'll be long out of town by now. My beautiful Sophia, butchered for a mere 10 pence out of my till. It's a senseless waste of life.
I keep wishing, if only Sophia had left the bar and it had been me there instead to take that fatal shot, and you 2 could have been happily married. If a shot was destined to be fired, it should have been me that took it.
Don't talk foolishly now.
I'm serious. I've lived my life, seen all there is to see, and you 2 with the rest of yours together.
Come on now, Billy.
I've been thinking about this of late. Should have died 10, 20 times over in my life, yet somehow I always seem to give it the slip. It was only the other night there that I lost my way in the blizzard and woke up entombed by snow. By all accounts, I should have snuffed it.
How did you manage that?
I was drunk beyond all recognition, and I must have lost my bearings in the way home from the barn.
Did your pals not care to see you back safely?
They were nowhere to be seen.
They're supposed to be your friends. That homebrew must have knocked you for 6.
I did. It was then again when I thought I was about to take my last breath. I was delirious. There were strange visions playing out before me. My heart was bouncing against my ribcage, and I had spasms going through my entire body, sweating buckets. The lads near enough gave me my last rites.
Can't believe they left you to your own devices after witnessing you in such a state. Surely you'd think they'd have guided you home safely.
I had this strange dream that they were carrying me by the arms and legs along the length of the ship's endless deck, and laughing all the while.
And the night before that, I haven't told you this, we all thought you'd croaked it then. That's 2 nights in a row you almost died, and then on the 3rd night, Sophia shot dead. It's puzzling me why they plied you with so much booze of late.
Having saved my life, they told me they felt obliged to take good care of me, you know. They've been great company. They were over the moon for me when my fortunes began to change. That's enough about me. Is there anything I can do for you, George? I'll take over if you want some rest.
No. Hang on a minute. This is important. Tell me, do they know about the money that you're due to receive?
Yeah, of course they do. I want to share the good news with them.
Please, tell me, did they start paying for all your drinks before or after you shared the news with them?
After.
And did they get you to sign that petition before or after you shared the news with them?
Afterwards, I think.
You can't read, Billy. How did you know it was a petition?
I took their word for it.
But did it look like a petition? It could have been anything.
I suppose it could. Actually, I think I might have it on me. They dropped it last night.
Let me have a look.
Careful, it's sealed.
George dismissively unseals the document and opens it up. His face darkens as he reads its contents.
What's wrong?
Everything. Everything's wrong. The greatest crimes can be committed by the stroke of a pen.
Take a seat, George. Tell me, what is it?
It was supposed to be you. They've been trying to kill you for your money. You've signed it over to them in this will. Your will! They came for you last night, but Sophia was wearing your clothes when they shot her. How could you have been so blind? Those bastards!
Oh dear God. I think you're talking sense, George. Never before has the booze had that effect on me. Bloody hell, all this time they've been leading me to death's door.
I doubt that's just booze you've been drinking. They must have been poisoning you. They laced your drinks, but you survived. They left you for dead in the snow, but you survived. So they took to the gun and staged a robbery in the hope of seeing you off for good.
I know for certain that Kincaid owns a shotgun. I've seen him out on the marshes shooting pheasants. How could they be so evil?
Some men are just born that way, and others have to work at it. Billy, it's imperative for you not to show your face until all of this is dealt with. Your safety is paramount. Hopefully they're under the assumption that they have indeed killed you, and we want to keep it that way. I need to sort this out. I'll lock the door behind me, then I want you to go upstairs, lock yourself in my room, and don't answer to anyone but me.
Are you going to the police?
I'm going for a walk to put my head in order. There's only one way to clear this up, once and for all.
George exits through the front door. Billy disappears through the back of the pub. Act 3, Scene 4. Later that day, George stands alone in the pub, staring with a vacant expression.
Sophia. My darling Sophia. All of her beauty and grace rendered lifeless and laid out flat on a sterile slab in the morgue. My Sophia. How should murderers be brought to justice? Should the task be accorded to the impersonal lumbering arm of the state, or to the quick and ready hands of those affected? Is it right that nameless jurors and men in wigs should decide the severity of the punishment, if any at all? And even if they do come to the right decision, the noose knows not the neck it breaks. It knows not a guilty neck from an innocent one. Who am I to ask such questions as this? My job is to pour the drinks. Billy, you can come down. It's me.
George, you've been gone ages. I was starting to worry. You're shivering. Where have you been?
Out and about. I've been thinking.
Did you not go to the police station?
What proof do we have? Our own convictions alone won't lead to their convictions.
Well, surely we should call the police.
No, not yet. But in the meantime, I'll make sure you're safe.
George! It's us! Can you let us in?
It's freezing out here and we could do with a drink.
Quick, get down into the cellar and don't come out until I give the word.
You can't let him in, George. It's not safe.
Trust me, I'll give nothing away, but I need you to stay within earshot for this.
Okay then.
Billy descends the cellar stairs behind the bar and closes the trapdoor over his head. George walks over to the door and turns the lock.
Bear with me, gents.
Why the barricade at this hour?
Have you not heard?
Heard what?
There was a robbery last night. A shooting. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but it was Billy. He was killed right there on that spot.
My God! Please tell me it isn't so.
Kincaid falls to his knees and signs a cross over his chest.
Billy!
No! No! Oh.
I'm afraid it's true. They took his body away this morning.
Oh, I can't bear this. I'm feeling terribly faint. Oh.
Aloysius! Wake up! Fetch the smelling salts, George!
I'm okay. I'm okay. Just a little weak at the knees. Please, help me to my feet.
Take a seat, lads. You can have a drink in his honour, eh?
George pours 2 drinks from a bottle behind the bar and slides them over.
What a tragedy!
I'm lost for words. He was a great man.
A true gentleman. We'll mourn him for the rest of our days.
Was anybody else harmed?
No. Just Billy.
Did anybody else see the bastards that did this?
No, well, I was in the cellar and Sophia, she'd gone to the ladies.
God, pubs targeted by armed robbers for their takings. It's disgusting.
It is. I won't be open for a few days, but I'll make an exception for Billy's close friends.
Is Sophia about?
No. She's at the morgue at the moment.
Oh, poor woman. She'll be devastated.
Let me fix you up with another drink, lads.
Oh, much obliged.
To Billy.
To Billy.
That one barely touched the sides.
Billy taught us well.
I'll make this next one a large one, eh? You were good friends to him. He seemed to turn a corner after you took him under your wing. That smile of his was ever present in your company.
Thank you. That's exactly where the tragedy lies. We saved him at his lowest ebb, and now the cruel hands of fate have intervened, pissing wantonly over his newfound zeal for life.
It's truly sickening for such a good man to come to such a squalid end.
Could we have another, George?
Most certainly.
It's got a kick to it. That.
What is it?
A fine blend if ever there was one. Must be a foreign import. Don't tell anyone, but I found it in the old Driscoll barn just this afternoon. Found a couple of shotguns too.
The O'Driscoll's barn?
You know it, don't you? Oh, never mind. You were never there. I remember you saying so.
God!
What's wrong? It's perfectly fine. Aren't you going to finish it?
Yes, of course, in a minute.
Could be bootlegged, so I think I'll leave it. That stuff can be quite potent.
So I'm told. By the way, how's your petition going?
Petition? What petition?
For the blind school, you remember?
I don't know anything about a petition.
That's odd. Billy was telling us about it last night. He told us he signed it himself, at your behest.
Oh, that petition!
We did our best with it, but in the end we couldn't get enough signatures.
Are you alright? You're looking a bit peaky.
It's the grief.
Tragedy takes its toll on a man.
Ah, you're certainly right there.
Please, I need water.
I'm afraid we're all out.
Oh, water, George, my throat. It's killing me. My insides are on fire.
What on earth's the matter with you two? If it was good enough for Billy, surely it's good enough for yourselves.
Oh, madness. Get us water now. Can't you see we're choking?
Billy, come up here and fetch some water for these two ignoble bastards.
The trapdoor opens. Billy emerges from the cellar and stands over Kincaid and Languishes, who are writhing on the floor in agony.
Billy! You're supposed to be dead!
No, Sophia's supposed to be alive, but she's dead by your hands. Dead by your greed. No longer will she walk or breathe, or dance, or sing. I told you the truth earlier. She is in the morgue, laid out on a slab, with a cloth drawn across what's left of her perfect face. Her eyes forever closed to this world.
And all this for what? Money? Money that was destined for the needs of the deserving.
Now they're paying for it. All of it.
What have you done, George?
They've mixed and drank their own poison. I'm simply serving it to them. The fate they intended for you, Sophia's fate, will now be their fate.
We didn't touch Sophia. It was Billy. We shot Billy right through the head. How on God's earth are you still alive?
You depraved animals, you shot Sophia. She was wearing my hat and jacket.
There's no one here to save you. No one. You'll die a wretched, agonising death on the same floor she did.
George, think about what you're doing. You're better than them.
Please, have mercy!
We're sorry. Fetch a doctor.
I'll do no such thing. You'll be discovered rotten in the old Driscoll barn, with murder weapons to hand, surrounded by your own poisons, which you were foolish enough to drink yourselves.
May God have mercy on your souls.
What God? So, that's it. The whole sordid lot. You, looking on for your own gratification with invisible eyes, while Billy's life hung delicately by a thread, eager to see if he'd live or die. Well, he lived. My good friend, the beautiful freak of nature, lives on. So, have you had your fill? Sophia laid flat in the morgue. Those two, dead, with all the blood in their bodies squeezed out through their ears and nostrils, washed up in a lake of crimson vomit, with eyes ballooning from their sockets. All things considered, they got off lightly. The hanged are rid of their suffering, while the hangman bears his for the rest of his days. So go on, get on with your lives, make the right choices, do the right things, see where that gets you. Fate is a spider that lurks in the shadows, hungrily waiting for you to think you've untied yourself from its web. I'm calling last orders now. Be off with you!
No End for a Sailor by Nick Baker and Benjamin Euler. Produced by Matthew Webster. Narrated by Martin Patrick Quinn. Starring Matthew Webster as Billy Applegarth, Jason Baxter as George Nobleman, Rebecca Burrill as Sophia, Benjamin Euler as Kincaid Mackenzie, Nick Baker as Aloysius Lennon, Martin Patrick Quinn as Postman. Accordion performance of Drunken Sailor by Peter Burrows. Original music composed and performed by Matthew Webster. No End for a Sailor.